So let's talk about the 5 things that you must do or that you must consider before you invest in a rental property out of state. Hey, what is up everybody? My name is Sean. I am a life coach and entrepreneur who owns multiple businesses. And in addition to that, I am a real estate investor and flipper. I have invested in over 20 rental properties and property flips, all out of state. And let's face it, investing in rental properties is already a pretty big deal, and there's a lot of things that you have to consider while you're doing so. Now, if you're investing out of state, not only do you have to consider those things, but there's a lot of other things that you need to make sure you consider before you actually take that plunge investing in an area out of state. So as we get started here, if you have not done so already, be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe channel button for me as well. If you are completely new to my channel, I'll leave some links to some amazing videos in the description box below that you may enjoy. And if you are all about financial freedom, life on your terms, this may be a good channel for you. But let's go ahead and get started with those 5 things that you must consider before buying out-of-state rental properties. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you do market research on that particular area. Now, this is something that you should be doing even if you invest in-state as well. But the reason I say this is because a lot of times when you're investing out of state, it's typically because the properties are a lot less expensive. But we don't want to fall into the mindset of, well, if the property's a lot cheaper, it must mean I'm getting a better deal. It's not always the case. Regardless if you're investing in state or out of state, if the property is more expensive or less expensive, you have to run your numbers. You have to understand how much that property can rent for. You need to understand how much the mortgage is going to be, the property taxes are in that area, how much insurance is going to cost you, and you need to get a rough estimate of how much you should put towards things like capital expenditures, maintenance towards the properties, and things like that. The more research that you do, the more acquainted you're going to be with prices and also rental prices, and that's going to help you know that when you do come upon that deal, you'll be able to snag it up right away because you know that you're getting it undervalued. This is so important because every time you buy a rental property, you want to try to buy a good deal that has built-in equity right from the start. So the second thing that you want to do or that you must consider before buying out of state is making sure that you have a realtor that has experience with property investors. Listen, there are a lot of great realtors out there, but there's definitely a much different mindset of buying your own personal home versus buying a rental property. And so what you want to do is make sure that the realtor that you're using has had a lot of experience working with investors, because they're going to understand and be looking out for certain things in terms of add value potential, more concerned helping you find out the numbers, trying to figure out if this would make sense as a rental property, as opposed to just, would this be a suitable home for you or just for someone in general. I talk about this all the time, but when it comes to investing in real estate, it's super important to know your numbers, and it's very important that you buy something that's undervalued. Listen, you make your money on the purchase of a home when it comes to a rental property. So when you can find properties that have a lot of add value potential or that are under market, that's going to really help you create that built-in equity to create greater profits. So the third thing that you absolutely must do before buying a property out of state is to make sure that you get a whole house inspection done. Now, honestly, this is something you should do even if you're investing in state as well. However, especially if you're buying a property that you have never seen before, which I've done this multiple times, you know, it's so imperative that you get a whole house inspection done just to make sure that there's no major damages or no major issues to the property. Now, things you want to be looking out for are things like foundation issues, roofing issues, really massive and major plumbing or electrical things like water heaters and windows or HVAC systems. Now, keep in mind that no matter what property it is, even if it's a brand new property, there are going to be issues that come up in a whole house inspection. So don't be terrified or scared if something comes up, but if it is something that is definitely structurally related or roof related or maybe windows, HVAC, you may want to start digging a little bit deeper on how much it's going to cost to get those repaired. Most things that come up in a whole house inspection are honestly pretty easy fixes, but you do want to make sure that you are avoiding all the major stuff, because that is going to be things that really put a massive drain in your pocket and could potentially put you in a non-profitable situation. Now, the fourth thing that you must consider before buying a rental property out of state is to make sure that you have a handyman or a repairman on your team. Listen, at some point or another, you're going to have to do repairs on your property. And while there are instances where you absolutely must hire a professional company to do the repairs, you want to try to avoid as much as possible because they are extremely expensive. When you have a handyman or a repairman, someone that you don't have to spend as much money on, this can really help increase your profitability and to make sure that you actually cover all of your expenses every month. If you have to hire a professional plumber every single time the sink is clogged or the toilet is clogged, you're probably going to spend most of your profits paying the professional to come out. If you're not sure where to go to find a handyman or repairman, you can go on places like Craigslist. You can even talk to your realtor, especially if it's a realtor that works with a lot of investors. More than likely, they have a network of people or handyman that they know. You can also find a handyman or repairman on various apps and websites. But all in all, make sure you have a really good repairman or a handyman. That will save you so much more money than having to hire a professional every single time because you're not there to be able to help with that process. The final thing that you want to consider before buying a rental property out of state is whether or not you want to manage the property yourself or if you want to hire a property manager. Now, there's going to be some cases where you're not even able to hire a property manager because maybe that particular town or that particular city doesn't have any property management services. But in general, typically you're going to need to decide, do I want to put the time and effort into managing it myself, or would I rather be more hands-off, not have to deal with the things like the phone calls, screening tenants, trying to call plumbers and electricians and things like that? A really good property manager will take away a lot of the headaches for you. They will screen the tenants. They will go and find tenants. They will also have to answer the phone calls from the tenants. They'll have to call the plumbers, electricians, all those great things. But by doing so, typically property management companies will charge between 7 to 10% of your gross or collected rents. And that can mean a lot less cash flow. So if you're trying to maximize your cash flow, you may want to manage the properties yourself. If you decide to manage your own properties, I would say definitely make sure that you have a good tenant screening application process. The time zone difference, this is a really major thing. You see a lot of my properties are 2 and 3 hours ahead of me. And so that sometimes means some really late night calls or really early morning calls where it's like 5 a.m. my time, 8 o'clock in like Ohio, for instance. So you do want to consider those things. If you are trying to keep that extra cash flow, do you want to put in that extra work or that extra effort? Is that okay with you? But anyways, those are the 5 things I think you absolutely must consider. If you are an out-of-state property investor yourself, put some other things down in the comments below of things that you should consider if buying your own out-of-state rental property. Also, if you haven't done so, make sure you smash that like button, hit the subscribe button for me as well. It would mean the absolute world to me, especially if this video provided value to you. Leave comments below with some other videos or things you want to learn more about. Be sure to share this video and let's get out there and let's crush it.